Hey there, this is Mr. Portland Landlord. If you're a landlord anywhere in the Portland metro or across Oregon, and you're looking at the calendar right now thinking fall rent increase season is here, you're in the right place. Today we're going to walk through the Oregon rent increase rules for 2026, the same way I teach them in class, practical, clear, and focused on keeping you out of trouble. We're talking the statewide 9.5% cap, the Portland associated housing cost traps that can still trigger relocation assistance, the exact 90-day notice requirements, and one timing rule that a lot of owners are about to get wrong if they're aiming for a January 1st increase. Let's start with the statewide floor. Under Oregon Revised Statutes 90.323 and 90.324, three hard limits apply to almost every residential tenancy that isn't week to week. First, you cannot raise rent at all during the first year of the tenancy. Second, after that first year, you may increase rent only once in any rolling 12-month period. Third, the increase cannot exceed the maximum annual percentage published by the Oregon Department of Administrative Services. For calendar year 2026, that published maximum is 9.5%. That's the lesser of 10% or 7%, plus the West Region Consumer Price Index. It applies to most residential units that are 15 years old or older. Brand new construction, meaning the first certificate of occupancy was issued less than 15 years before the date of your notice, is exempt. Units where you're providing reduced rent under a government program are also exempt. If you claim the new construction exemption, keep a copy of that certificate of occupancy ready. The notice itself has to be in writing and given at least 90 days before the effective date. It must state the amount of the increase, the new rent amount, the effective date, and, if you're claiming an exemption, the facts that support it. You can serve it by personal delivery or by first-class mail. If you mail only, add 4 extra days so the tenant actually gets a full 90 days of notice. That's the state baseline. Now let's talk about the Portland overlay that still trips up experienced owners every single year. Inside Portland city limits, Portland City Code 30.0.1.085 adds another layer. If the tenant's rent or associated housing costs go up by 10% or more within any rolling 12-month period, the tenant has the right to request relocation assistance. The amounts are fixed by bedroom count: $2,900 for a studio or SRO, $3,300 for a one-bedroom, $4,200 for a two-bedroom, and $4,500 for 3 or more bedrooms. Here's the part that still surprises people. Associated housing costs is broader than base rent. Fixed charges you control, pet rent, a new monthly utility fee, a parking space that used to be included, certain fixed trash or RUBS charges, all count toward that 10% threshold. You can stay comfortably under the state's 9.5% cap on base rent and still trigger the city relocation right if the total package of costs the tenant pays rises by 10% or more. The tenant has 45 days after receiving the increased notice to request the relocation money in writing. Once they do, you have 31 days to pay it. Then the tenant has 6 months either to return the money and stay at the higher rent or to give notice and move. Either way, they keep paying the increased amount while they remain in the unit. If the property is inside Portland, every increased notice also needs to include a description of the tenant's rights and obligations under the city code. A link to the Portland Housing Bureau page is acceptable. Skip that language and you've handed the tenant an easy claim. When you sit down to prepare the actual notice, use the current Oregon Rental Housing Association landlord forms, specifically the Notice of Rent Increase, Form 01, and the Portland version, 01PD. You can grab them at the ORHA Forms store. Portland Area Rental Owners Association members get the member discount on those forms, so if you're not already a member, that's one more reason to join. And if you'd rather not handle the calculation, the team at Northwest Real Estate and Property Management does this work every week for owners across the Portland Metro and Central Oregon. Okay, back to the calendar. Most owners start thinking about fall increases in August and September, so the new rent can take effect around January 1st. That is fine for a 2026 increase, still governed by the 9.5% number. But if the increase you are planning will not take effect until January 1st, 2027 or later, stop. The Oregon Department of Administrative Services is required by statute to publish the maximum percentage for the following calendar year no later than September 30th. Until that number is out, you do not know the legal ceiling for any increase that lands in 2027, serving a notice now that claims a specific percentage increase effective January 1st. 2027 is premature. Wait for the official DAS publication in September, then calculate and serve. A few extra weeks of patience is a lot cheaper than rewriting notices or defending an overlimit claim. Here's a practical checklist before you serve anything. Confirm the tenancy has already completed its first year. Confirm you have not already given an increase in the last 12 months. Decide whether the unit is exempt and gather the supporting document. Calculate the proposed base rent increase against the 9.5% 2026 cap. If the property is inside Portland, add every associated housing cost you control and check the 10% rolling total. Draft the written notice with all required elements, amounts, effective date, exemption facts if any, and Portland rights language if applicable. The current ORHA Notice of Rent Increase forms already contain the correct statutory language. Choose your service method and calendar the extra 4 days if you're mailing only. Keep a clean copy of the notice and proof of service in the tenant file. A few common pitfalls I still see on the helpline. Serving a notice that is short by a few days because someone forgot the mail rule. Raising base rent 8% and simultaneously adding a $75 fixed utility charge that quietly pushes the total over 10% in Portland. Using last year's 10% figure for a 2026 increase. Timing a rent increase too close to a tenant's repair request and walking into a retaliation claim. And forgetting that the once per 12 months clock runs from the effective date of the last increase, not from the date the last notice was served. In a softening Portland market, pure take it or leave it is often expensive. A short, clear letter that explains the increase is within the legal limit, outlines any improvements or cost pressures, and invites a conversation about renewal terms can keep a good tenant in place. A lot of owners are finding that a slightly lower increase paired with a longer fixed-term renewal produces better net results than pushing every allowable dollar and watching a solid resident walk. So here's the open question for you. What's the biggest surprise you've run into when calculating a rent increase under the current Oregon and Portland rules? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and we often turn the best questions into future videos or class topics. Fall is the season when small timing mistakes become expensive. Get the percentage right, get the notice right, watch the Portland associated cost total, and if the increase is aimed at January 2027, wait for the September DAS number. Do those 4 things and you'll sleep better than most of the owners who end up on the helpline in October. Hey, if you're a Portland area landlord, come join the community over at www.u.paroa.org. We've got education, forums, networking, and we fight for your rights at the legislature. And for owners in the Portland Metro or Central Oregon looking for hassle-free management, check out the pros at www.nwrpm.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.